Louis Patrone back with the Key West Lou Legal Hour. I thank you again for joining me this morning. I enjoy doing the show, and I'm pleased that you enjoyed enough to watch. You are interested. I'm going to stay with the Catholic Church for a moment. I don't want you to think I'm beating them up, but they're in the news. The bishops screwed up when they asked in writing the House of Representatives to vote for a shutdown. And I think there's another way the church is screwing up, and it's become evident this week. Let me say first the Bible again. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And I'm not going to talk about pedophilia. There's another issue. The Catholic Church has its own bank. It's called the Vatican Bank. Big money. Invest all over the world. They had problems 25, 30 years ago. There was some corruption in there, and they got it cleaned up. Well, corruption apparently has come back with regard to the Vatican Bank. It was only recently, I'd say 2 months ago, that the Rome Police Department did a raid on one of the Vatican banks, and they grabbed some accounts. One account had $20 million in it, because the Rome police said that the bank, the Vatican Bank, is involved in money laundering. Hey, well, turns out they may be. When Pope Francis became Pope earlier this year, he said he was going to look into the Vatican Bank thing, and if there's a problem, clean it up. Apparently, he has started. This past week, as part of the money laundering investigation and correcting a problem if one exists, the Vatican Bank closed all accounts held by foreign countries. Foreign embassies have money deposited in the Vatican Bank. They're apparently putting money, they're laundering bad money and making it good money, and the Vatican Bank is assisting in this. Never forget that money that goes through a bank for laundering purposes pays the same bank fees as everyone else does. So the banks make a lot of money on this, whether they're Vatican or civil or what. And 3 of the countries involved, were Iran, Iraq, and Indonesia. All Muslim countries, I find this humorous, all Muslim countries. Indonesia, if you're not aware, has the largest Muslim population in the world. Indonesia also is always persecuting and prosecuting Catholics. Churches get burned every week or so, vandalized. Catholics are beaten on the street. If people recognize someone, hey, I know her, she's a Catholic. Because I have a friend, Jackie, in Jakarta, Indonesia, that periodically writes me, I was accosted on the street again, I was beaten, my church was vandalized. They deposit money in the Vatican Bank, and the Vatican Bank's happy to take their money. Well, no more. Their money's out. Iran, Iraq, and Indonesia have to run with their money. There is corruption in the Vatican Bank. Just sharing, we should all know what is happening. Now, let's go back to this shutdown and the debt limit. I'm going to talk about ATM machines. None of us can live in today's society without an ATM machine. You need money, you take your plastic card, you put it in, you take out a few dollars. That's how we all live today, the ATM machine. If the government shutdown and if the debt limit problem are not resolved, the banks are going to be in trouble this way. They're going to be in trouble many ways, but this way. There is going to be a run on the banks. People are going to go to the ATM machines, for example, and even into the banks and want to take a lot of money out. They're going to be happier putting their cash under the mattress rather than in the bank. All right? In anticipation of a run on the banks, this past week, the ATM machines in the United States have had more cash put in them. 20 to 30% more cash is going into the ATM machine. They would have put more in, but the machine can't handle it. But the banks are concerned that if this problem isn't resolved that we have in the Congress of the United States and in our government, that there will be a run on the banks. There won't be any money in the ATM machines if that happens. Well, that's bad enough there's no money. But then people get mad. That's my money. Maybe I can't buy groceries for my family. Now I get even more mad. And before you know it, there are people in the streets complaining. And before you know it, there's a little violence. And you never know what's going to happen. And it can happen here unless we start living the way we're supposed to live, the way we used to live. And we have to start with Washington and our politicians. Which brings me now to government waste. Let me put it to you this way. Washington does not want to take care of the poor. $40 billion worth of food stamps they want to cut out. The House of Representatives, the home of the Tea Party. They want to cut back on Medicare, Social Security. They don't care about the elderly. I don't understand. Poor, elderly. They don't care about the sick. They want to absolutely get rid of Obamacare in its entirety. Insanity. First time we've had some kind of universal medical coverage in this country. 30 million people will now get medical coverage that they couldn't obtain before. 47 million people will have better medical coverage at a cheaper rate. Let's get the thing going. We'll correct it as it goes along. There's problems with everything in this life. There were problems with Social Security in '36 when Roosevelt got it going. And they yelled at him the way they're yelling at Obama, but it worked. Anyhow, let me tell you about government waste. I think if our government took a look at how they piss money away, it's the only way to describe it. We don't have to do a lot of these things, or we don't have to do as much. You have to comprehend what I am going to say. All money decisions for the government originate and get first blessing by the House of Representatives. Per the Constitution, money decisions have to be passed by budget in the Congress, the House of Representatives of the United States. If they don't give it their blessing, it doesn't go anyplace. Now, they see all the budgets for all the departments and agencies of the United States government. Budgets this big, this thick. They have staff. I don't know how, they got to have staff in the hundreds to look at all this stuff and take care of it. So they can't say, gee, we didn't know, because they got committees to look at defense. They got committees to look at education. They got committees to look at everything. Heavy payroll, by the way, for the House of Representatives. So how do these things get past these men we send there and we make, they are just like the cardinals are the princes of the church. These guys are the princes of the United States. I don't understand it. So let me tell you how they screw up. And I keep repeating this the third week in a row. I'm telling you this. I think the greatest misspending of money in this country is the private barbershop that the United States Senate has. Private barbershop. They've had their own barbershop since the early 1800s, the United States Senate. Semi-palatial in appearance, all paid for by tax dollars, except they do pay, the senators pay $3.50 for a haircut for the last 10, 15, 20 years. But other than that, anything they want. And now that we have female senators, they have a hairdresser. They do manicures and all that too. The problem with having their own private barbershop is this thing runs in the hole every year. It runs $500,000, $500,000 in the hole every year. Well, who pays for that $500,000 deficiency? You and I do with our taxes. That's taxpayer money. This is one of the perks of being a United States Senator. I did a little math last night. I'm a barber. I figure a man gets a haircut every 2 weeks. Let's assume all 100 senators are men, every 2 weeks. That means he gets 25 haircuts a year. 25 haircuts a year, the going rate for a haircut is $20. That's the average in this country. That's a little bit on the high side in a lot of places. $20 times 2,500 comes to $50,000 a year. Now, most barbers in this country would be happy to do 2,500 haircuts, would be happy to gross $50,000 a year. They can't live on $50,000 a year, this operation that we're paying for. It costs more than the $500,000. Everything's paid by tax dollars. You heard me. Everything by your dollars and mine. And they get this for nothing, for $3.50. What a joke. So I've come up with, every week I said I'm going to come up with some waste items. But I always talk about the Senate because that's so stupid and so obvious. It's vulgar, it's insulting that they do that to us. They get free haircuts. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share a story with you. I'm smiling already because what I'm going to tell you is so humorous, you won't believe it. But we're going to break in a few seconds. When I come back, I'm going to tell you about some airplanes that the Air Force ordered, Congress of the United States approved in the budget. They went out to be built. They didn't need them all of a sudden, but they still built them. Stay with me. I shall return.